All right, Chapter 5, Fireman Duties. Reparation of the engine cleaning, cleaning of the injector screen, slide lamp, and tail lamps, cleaning of the fires, miscellaneous duties of firemen to take the right-of-way signal, taking on the coal firing methods, feeding of the boiler with water, engine throw sparks, working on the fire door, downgrades, water stops, stabling an engine. All right, fireman duties. Preparation of the engine. On arrival of the engine, the fireman should make sure that they ample water in the boiler, testing the level in both the gauge glasses. He should see that both the steam cock at the top of the column and the water cock at the bottom of the column are open and work freely. The firebox is examined to ensure the lead plugs stay in the tubes, baffle plug, plate, and brake arches, fire bars are in good order. The ash pan is checked to see if it is in good condition and the free from ash, clinkers, and the traps and that the traps are operating correctly. The ash pan dampers are workable. The smoke box is inspected to ensure that it is clean, and the ash injector cocks tested to make sure that it is fully closed. If necessary, it should be spread and steam pressure allowed to rise slowly. Before spreading the fire, it should be ascertained by the means of a bent pricker that positions the firebox under the door and is clear of ashes and clinkers. 5.2. Cleaning of the injector screens. By closing the tender water valve, uncoupling the water union, taking of the screen, and removing all the sediment, cleaning of the screens over the injectors while the water union is uncoupled with the heater cock. The injector is turned back and the steam spindle drawn out of the blow back injector. After the blowing back of the heater cock is returned to the normal position, the tender water valve is opened to ensure that the full flow of water comes to the tender. The satisfactory injector screen is replaced and the water union recoupled. After this has been completed, both injectors are operated to ensure that they work satisfactorily. Side lamps and tail lamps. Locomotive side lamps should be cleaned and trimmed at night, and red tail light is placed on the rear tender bracket until the engine is joined to the train. If it is daylight and the engine is to travel light, a white triangular disc is obtained and hung on the rear end tender bracket. 5.4. Cleaning of the fires. Ash is only permitted to drop at the box flat depot designated area. If the fire requires cleaning during the light up of the procedure, ash pan water is turned on and the fire rocked to the ash pan. If necessary, the clinker bar is open to remove any course of the ash and dinker. The clinker bar is then closed with the fire spread over it. The ash traps are open, used as air control valve. The fireman inside under the cab door. Once the ashes are dropped out, the ash pan water is turned off. The ash pan traps closed using air control valve. The fire is then built up. The air dust should be hosed off the engine using the hose of the engine cab. Care should be taken to keep out of the water out of the oil caps and axle boxes, etc. The boiler should be filled before cleaning to fire allow. The driver to blow down the boiler before leaving the box flat. There should be at least 3/4 of a glass of water in the boiler to avoid using the injector immediately after cleaning the fire and blowing down the boiler. When the fire is being cleaned during the fire is to be cleaned during the train operation, care should be taken to ensure that the fire does not burn too low and that the fire is not overfed with green coal when approaching the box flat. On an arrival box flat, there should be at least 3/4 of a glass of water in the boiler to avoid using injectors immediately after cleaning the fire. The engine is to be placed in a designated ash disposal point, and the ash pan should water turned on, and the traps are then opened. The ash rocked through the bars with care be taken not to rock the fire to low. After the ash has been shaken through the clinker bar is to open and allow the ash to drop through at the front of the box. A large ash and clinker is to push out through the clinker bar opening. The clinker bar is placed on the back in the correct position, after which the fire is spread over the clinker bar to prevent chilling of the tube plate. The fire is to be built up, ready to start the train. The ash pan traps are to be closed following the check, with a check must be made to ensure that they are fully closed. This is important to avoid the risk of dropping live ashes when running. After the traps are closed, the ash pan water closed off. The level of the water in the boiler is noted to ensure that it is satisfactory. 5.5. Miscellaneous duties of firemen. Footboards, engine front end gauges, glasses, protectors, cab windows, boiler front, cab panels, oil bottle feeders are clean. Coal is wetted to prevent dusting from blowing into the cab. In addition, will the fireman perform such other duties may be required him as the driver. 5.6. Firemen to take the right-of-way signals. Firemen to look at the right-of-way signals are required to advise the driver of the right-of-way. The firemen to ensure that all the clear right-of-way signal is given. Firemen are to look back and observe the trains leaving the platforms until the last carriage has been left the platform. A close watch is kept to see that all the doors and gates are closed and that there are no passengers attempting to join or alight from the train when it's leaving from the platform. 5-7. Taking coal on coal. Coal is usually located at the box flat by the end of the loader before the start of the public train operations. After coal has been loaded, any coal which is spilled out into the foot plate is to be picked up and the cab floor swept. Coal is to be kept clear of the water filler and recess at the back of the tender. Space must be allowed for the fire irons to be safely placed on the hooks provided. All right, firing methods. Fire methods. Firing methods. Emissions too much of the air into the firebox will reduce the temperature damage and could cause the firebox placed on. Contrary, this is insufficient air. The incombustible gases will not ignite and will drift away in the form of smoke. A smoldering smoke fires in almost all cases denotes defective combustion. The air that gets through the partially open fire door when the firebox is full flame will not cause harm to the boiler. Effective combustion will be only obtained by a proper air supply for a given quantity of coal according to the coal quality. Engines should be fired with half shovels at short intervals. Fire drawers should be kept about 2 inches open after the shovel coal onto the fire to allow air to come to quick contact with the combustion coal. If the fire door is shutting immediately after each of the shovelful coal is put in the firebox, then the intake of the air of the combustion is restricted, and unburnt gases will produce and pass out of the chimney as smoke. The fire door should never remain fully closed while the regulator is open with the engine fitted with a brick arch and baffle plate. The emissions of the smoke of the incident immediately after firing with the indication of the fuel bed is in good condition, but if the smoke continues to show that for any length of time, it is an indicator that insufficient oxygen is available for the amount of the coal fire, causing the lowering of the temperature in the fire of the box. The fire door may need to be opened wider. A density of smoke decreases, the opening of the fire door should be narrowed. When fired coal should be fired purposely to a finite area of the grate, it has been found that the coal thrown haphazardly through the fire hole can be carried over the brick arch, causing the blockage of the lower tubes and power steaming. Figure 6 refer to Figure 6 in Annex A. The figure shows how the coal should be introduced in a narrow firebox, successive half shovels full being thrown into the points, indicating the numbers in sequence. The method of firing will tend to make the firebed uniform, but the judgment of the fireman must be depending upon to ensure that that thin spots are kept covered. A spot or a hole in the fire will admit a large welcome or cold air into the firebox, causing serious chilling effect. If an engine is not steaming freely, the fire should be leveled and over. Occasionally, the firebed in the PB-15 locomotive should ideally slope even in the back head of the firebox to the tube plate. If the firebed becomes dull over the portions, it is an indication that the clinker has been set on the grate. Cinders maybe begin to boil up. The place of the draught through the grate and is not impeded with the pile over the dull places. If the clinker is not dealt with early, the fireman will experience trouble in maintaining steam pressure. The pricker should be used to break up the coke surfaces firebed to allow the air to penetrate. The pricker should not be distribute the ashes under live coals. And a firing must be placed before the previous one is properly burnt through. The pricker may be used in order to loosen the fire. The smoke is emitted after the engine has been stopped. The firebox door should be open, the dampers closed, and the blower gently until the smoke disappears. When the working uphill, the fire door should be used as light as possible. Experienced firemen leave the door open and just wide enough to permit the front of the middle of the box to be fed at half shovels. Alright, 5-9, feeding the boiler with water. Successive working with the engine depends by a great extent of how the boiler is fed with water. At all times, the supply should be regulated such as the steam pressure and the water level in the boiler vary as little as possible. When using the injector, it should be cut down to the point where it was feed water with the boiler at the same rate as the water boiler is to be evaporated. The best water is to be maintained at 3/4 of the glass of the rising grade, half a glass on the level, and 1/4 of the glass on the falling grade. When going up on a bank, it is important to be certain that there is sufficient water to build water in the boiler to cover up the crown sheet of the firebox at the top of the bank before moving into the downgrade section. On a long rising grade, the water level should not be allowed to fall below the half a glass at any time. The boiler should not be filled more than 3/4 of the glass when starting out with the train. To prevent engine from blowing off steam while standing for the period of time, the water in the boiler should be kept sufficiently low before stopping low in the ejector to work, if necessary, without having to overfill the boiler. Care should be taken to avoid blowing the safety valve and the necessary waste of the water and coal, and is also intensively a tendency of the boiler to prime. Care should be also taken not to overfill the boiler, as they may also cause the boiler to prime. 510. Throwing sparks. It is important to keep the smoke box of the engine all airtight with the avoid of throwing sparks about through the chimney. Spark arrestor, fuse tubes, blast pipes, and the engine must also be kept clean with preventing the sparks from being ejected. If an engine throws a spark, it can be attributed to the defective spark arrestor, but in some cases it's caused by the bottom smoke box draw air and the air being drawn around the blast pipe, steam pipes, and ash jet cap. If the smoke box is kept tight in the area, the spark arrestor and the blast pipes and the tubes on top of the brick arc are to be kept clean. The engine will be steamed more freely, run better, and consume less coal, and will not throw sparks from the chimney. 511. Working of the fire door on the downgrades. When running downgrades with the regulatory shut, care should be exercised in order to prevent cold air from getting into the firebox tubes, causing possible tube leakage. When the regulator to shut off the fire door should be closed as far as possible. Excessive smoke is not issuing from the chimney. When the fire is bright and smoke has cleared away, the door can be fully closed by the blower turned off. If the firing of the downgrade is necessary, the door is kept open slightly under the new coal with burning well and smoke has cleared away. The door is then closed. The blower should be used only on lightly or only when necessary. 512. Water stoppings. It is essential to defeat the water treatments to add the tender water each time the engine takes on water. Care is to be taken to ensure that the correct amounts of the various treatments are added to the amount of water added to the tender inside of the tanks. Fishermen's are to ensure that the hydrant hoses Firemen are to be ensure that the hydrant hose is hooked back behind the water valve after taking the water and that the valve is fully turned off. Ash is not dropped at the Swan Bank water hydrant. Stabling the engine. When an engine is to be stabled over the ending of the operating with the day, the boiler is to be filled with as much possible before the fire is dropped and banked, as so far as the only minor filling will be required when the fire is withdrawn. Ash is to be blown out of the smoke box before cleaning and dropping the fire. When cleaning and dropping the fire, the ashpan water is turned on before the opening of the ash traps. The bars are rocked and removed as much as possible, and the clinker bar is then open and all ash and clinker removed from pushing out through the clinker bar opening, or the clinker bar opening. Care is to be taken to ensure that all the ash and clinker is removed under the door. The fire is to be banked, and enough the live coal must be retained from the form of a bed on which they build a bank of green coil. Ashpan water is turned off. Ashpan traps are closed, and the traps are to be checked to ensure that they have closed completely. The dampers are closed. The engine is moved with the stabling position with the boiler and the filled with the injectors are cut out. If the engine is to be stable for more than one night, if the engine is to be banked, or if the engine is to be built up and lifted up the next day, 3/4 of the glass of the water should be left in the boiler. Fires to be banked against the tube of the plate under the brick arch. Before leaving the engine, a check is to be made to ensure that the blower and lubricator is shut off. The cylinder cocks are to be opened, the regulatory fully closed. The reversing lever is to be in central position, and the handbrake on. Wheels are to be checked if necessary. If the fire has been dropped fully, the mainstream valve of the main mountain is to be closed. The cab foot plate is to be swept, left in clean, tidied condition. A checklist is titled Steam Locomotive Inspection when stabling after the trip has been prepared with the drivers and firemen are to use the checklist in stabling the engine and refer to Figure 7 in Annex A. Chapter 6, Driver's Duties.